I'm Shebreh Kalantari-Johnson. I'm running for Santa Cruz City Council. You can find more information about me at my website, which is shebreh.org, shebreh.org.
Hi, welcome to Community Cafe. I'm Michelle Nicely. Today we'll be interviewing another candidate for Santa Cruz City Council. Shebreh, welcome to the show. Can you please tell us your full name?
Sure, thank you so much for having me. My name is Shebreh Kalantari-Johnson.
Thank you. I know you're passionate about Santa Cruz. We've known each other for over a decade. I've heard lots about different things that you do and people and places you're interested in. If you could just tell us a little bit about yourself, I'd be delighted.
Sure. First of all, I just really appreciate you inviting me to this show. We do go way back from when our kids were little, teeny tiny, and we went to birthday parties in backyards, which aren't happening right now. Yeah, I'll share a little bit about my background and then get to where I am now and why I'm running for City Council. So I'm originally from Iran, as you know. My family moved here in 1985, and my early years in Iran and the travel from Iran to here was really formative in shaping who I am and what's important to me. And if I may, I want to just share one story that really stands out for me. So 4-year-old me, I'm from the north part of Iran and near the Caspian Sea, and 4-year-old me and my dad and my uncle and cousin were at the sea, and a morality police, this is post-revolution, Islamic revolution, so morality police comes up to my dad and says, "You are unfit to be a father." And this is because his 4-year-old daughter was wearing a bathing suit. And I remember thinking in that moment, wait a minute, something's not right, because my cousin here, who's a male, who's wearing less than I am, well, his dad didn't get told anything. Now, at that time, I didn't know the word equity, and I didn't know what was happening, but I knew that something wasn't right. I knew that it was there was unjust actions that were happening right there. So I share that story because it was a real pivotal moment in my family's life. My dad knew that he could not raise his 2 daughters in that kind of an environment, that we would not have the opportunity to thrive. So again, there are a lot of injustices in the world, and that story doesn't really compare to so much that's happened in the world. So I'll fast forward a little bit. Moving to the U.S., not speaking really we just spoke a handful of words of English. My parents used all their resources. It took us a year. We were refugees in Turkey. We traveled to Germany, and we came here with 0 and really had to work hard. My parents delivered newspapers and worked as janitors. I'm sorry, this thing keeps coming down. I'm going to pull it tight. And it really took the Persian community that we were in Sacramento to help us make it. So justice from my early years, strong communities from that experience as a new immigrant here, those are 2 things that are important to me today, and those are the reasons why I'm running for City Council. So that's a little bit of my background.
That's fascinating. I mean, you've definitely been through it firsthand, and that I think is phenomenal. And the story's amazing. So thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you. I'll share a little bit about kind of my career path. So certainly community, service, justice, values that I really grew up with and that I carry with me. I came here to Santa Cruz to be a slug. I studied psychology and French, and then after graduating moved to San Francisco and worked in the Tenderloin with formerly homeless adults living in subsidized housing, helping with employment stability and housing stability. And that was a moment in my life as well where I shifted my path a little, because I saw the importance of how the systems and policies that we have in place really impact the individual decisions that we make. At that time, Governor Newsom was Mayor Newsom, so it was my first chance to really see what it meant to advocate and to be civically engaged. And so I shifted and I went into social work. I got my master's in social work, and that's when I moved back to Santa Cruz, and then got a job at United Way as Director of Community Building.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. You know, just to be such a young person and have such a deep passion to help others is remarkable,
Thank you.
especially today. You know, it seems like we all get in our own world, and with COVID, here we are, staying in our own world, but it's really, you've done your work, and
Yeah.
you're here now to, and at the pinnacle of stepping off into what you're going to, all these things have come together.
They
for
have, and I'll just share that the last 2 decades of working in the field of public health and social service and education has really shown several things. First of all, the importance, again, of looking at systems and policies as we're making everyday decisions. And secondly, that it's how we do things that are really important. How do we enter a space? What are the questions that we're asking? How are we building partnerships? In my work with United Way and then beyond, actually, I left United Way when I had my 2 boys back to back. That's about when we met.
Right.
They're a year and a half apart, so it was not
Same
doable
boat.
for me to do that position. And then I started my consulting business about a decade ago. But in my work, you know, I've worked on a range of issues, but all of it really is the end result that I'm working towards is community well-being and equity in our community. Now, my entry points have been different. So I heard your last episode, you were talking about art, right? What's your form of art? Well, mine is writing. I love writing, and I've been fortunate enough to turn that into part of my profession. So I'm a grant writer, and it is an art to be able to show the funders the balance between the need in our community as well as how our community is strong enough to meet that need if we have the resources.
Right.
So
Manage the money and
Yeah.
have new processes to do so.
That's right. So grant writing has been one of my entry points, and I brought in over $30 million in grants in the last 15 years. Another entry point is doing organizational development. So I've worked on strategic plans with our county substance use prevention programs, with our early care education and youth homelessness programs. And then I've also done leadership capacity building across the Bay Area, actually. So those are my entry points, again, the end result of well-being and equity for our community. And now I want to step up and serve our community in this way as a council member.
Well, you just mentioned youth in the community. Do you have any specifics on how things are with COVID?
Yeah. Great question. So I'll share one example. Actually, I worked on a project that is on youth homelessness. So I know homelessness is a huge issue in our community. It's visible, and it's impacting those individuals who are on the streets, and it's impacting our neighborhoods and quality of life all around. So 3 years ago, I co-authored a federal grant, very competitive. We were 1 in 10 across the nation to be awarded, and it was specifically to address the youth and young adult, unaccompanied youth and young adults. So this is under the age of 25, to help them with homelessness. Prevent and divert youth and young adults from homelessness. So we were awarded, and then the organization invited me back to do the year-long strategic planning process. And what was amazing about this process is that we invited youth who had lived experience, and they're brilliant. You know, they have real insight about what it's like and how they ended up there. So I'll share some data with you if that's okay.
Oh, that'd be great.
Our last point in time count in 2019, nearly a third were this age population. So nearly a third of our population that was counted as homeless is under the age of 25, unaccompanied. Within that third, those between the ages of 18 to 24, I think it's upwards of 30% are from our foster care system. And those under the age of 18, upwards of 60% are from our foster care system. So these are young people who are aging out, and they don't have the support that I mean, I needed my parents when I graduated.
I say young adult. Now they stay home till they're 26 or 27. I mean, I'm wondering if they're ever going to leave.
And especially with COVID, right? I hear a lot of friends and colleagues who say, my 25-year-old's back home.
Back in the 70s and 80s, when you were kind of packed up, ready to go in your early 20s, that's just not the way the world works anymore.
No.
And
No, yeah, exactly. So just to kind of get back to that, this is funding that will continue on in our community. We get just over $1 million every year that gets dispersed to local organization, and we have a number of strategies that we're working on to address this. One of them is Host Homes, is an innovative program. So, a lot of empty nesters who have college, their kids leave for college or take off, they have an empty room in their house. So then young people can come and stay in their homes for 6 months, and then we have case managers working with them to place them in permanent housing. Now, you asked about COVID and young people. It's really impacting this population. COVID and the fires. We've had several young people who were going to go into a host home, but rightly so. The hosts were concerned about COVID. And then some of our host homes were evacuated by fires, so then the young person had to be evacuated. So it's huge.
Tricky right now.
It's really tricky right now.
Oh, well, that's pretty remarkable.
But I will also share that our community, and this was something that was inspiring for me, our community has stepped up. I joined a COVID-19 response team back in April, and specifically for this age group. And in about a matter of 2 weeks, with partnership with city, county, nonprofits, and community groups, we were able to stand up a congregate shelter and temporarily house over 30 youth.
Oh, fantastic.
And then since then, we've gotten trailers donated from the state, and we are housing, we've been housing 17 youth. 3 of them have been permanently housed since we had them in the trailers. So
that's fantastic.
There's movement. Things are happening. And I, in times of crisis, if you could avoid the crisis, let's avoid the crisis. But in times of crisis, there's an opportunity to pause and really reflect on who you want to be as a community and how you want to respond.
That's right.
And I've been really moved by how our community has responded.
It's been a beautiful thing. I mean, with the fires and opening up the Watsonville Fairgrounds and the
Exactly.
Kaiser Permanente. I mean, there's been a lot of support that I've seen just from all around town and the county. So it's been really nice to step up. And
It's inspiring.
it really has been. In these times with COVID, where do you see us in the next year or so? What are your passions of this particular time?
Yeah. Wow, we need several hours to talk about that, but I'll share a couple points. I think, that we have to really focus on equitable health recovery of our community, equitable COVID recovery, and that means a lot of different things. The health of our community is and should be front and center, right? So partnering with our county health officer, partnering with the county health department, making sure that as residents and as a city, we are demonstrating and modeling the recommendations as you and I are, sitting 6 feet apart with masks on outdoors, and working with our local businesses so that as they're opening up, that it's done safely. My husband and I are both local business owners. I have a consulting business as a grant writer and organizational development and leadership capacity, and he has a bodywork clinic. He does deep tissue massage. So of course, that was one of the businesses. He was shut down for, I don't know, however many months, 3-4 months. Because it's important that we keep our community safe. And then when we moved into the lesser tier, he worked with the city to get all of the equipment that was necessary, and then does all the things that's listed on CDC to keep himself, his clients, and our family safe. So I think several layers, again, really working in lockstep with our county health department, really demonstrating and showing that that we are following those recommendations, and then working with our businesses, because as you know, they have been really impacted. I know that several dozen in just the city of Santa Cruz have had to shut down.
And that's probably just the ones we know of, people that have personal businesses and working out of their homes. We have no idea, probably. It's, and I can't imagine.
Yeah.
If you have to go in and do body work and be with people or hairdressers and other things, that it's really compromised our community.
It's really hard.
And
it's really hard. And what we can see is we can see in the inequities that have always been there, but there's a spotlight on it now.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
And we see the disparities. where the numbers are ending up and where geographically we have higher cases is very telling. And again, as I said, this is a moment for us to pause and think about how do we want to do things differently. And I have some ideas. Like I said, it might take several hours to
Well, we
to
can have
share
another
them all.
show. Yep, yep.
But I'll share just one.
Yeah.
That I think that the policy decisions that we make around our built environment are really important. And I'll share one very specific example that I worked on with all 4 city jurisdictions and the county, and that's alcohol outlets, right? There's research that shows that alcohol outlet density will there's research that shows that alcohol outlet density impacts community violence, and that historically alcohol outlet density happens in neighborhoods and communities that are marginalized, with lower income, Latinx, Black communities. And so we address this head on with a coalition that I've been working with for the last couple of decades. And we were successfully able to, and there's best practice policies, right? So we were successfully able to work with our city law enforcement, work with our city councils, with community groups, and put in place measures so that this isn't occurring in our community. So that we're really our built environment is such that the healthy choice is the easy choice to make. Another example is childhood obesity. That's an initiative I worked on when I was at United Way. Again, disproportionate rates among Latinx and in South County here in our community. So how are we designing our community? Are we designing them to have bike lanes and walkways? Are we designing them to have healthy food markets? Or will there be just fast food restaurants, right? So we passed the ordinance in the city of Watsonville that had some like distance requirements from schools and from parks, and the healthy market ordinance that was there. So these are ordinances that happened in the past, and so moving forward, there's a tool that we just passed at the city of Santa Cruz. I actually helped in the last year, and it's called the Health in All Policies. This is a framework that's endorsed by the World Health Organization, and basically, just to like synthesize it, it focuses on government decision making based on 3 pillars: health, equity, sustainability, and it's also how we move about with government decision making. Who are we engaging? Are we engaging the community and asking them? Are we engaging cross-sector partnership, right? The museum, or businesses downtown, or the Beach Flats community group, right? Are we getting input from a wide array of voices and perspectives, and then making those decisions again based on those 3 pillars, making decisions. So this framework, we have it now.
That's right.
We have it in our toolbox, and it's a real opportune time for us to use it moving forward.
We definitely need some changes, and just to keep up with the times and
Right.
the younger generations and what they need and want.
You brought up young people, and if I could just pick that thread up. So a lot of my work has included, the focus areas are on advancing youth well-being. And through that work, I've been able to work directly with young people. And one of the things I hear, young people, the age group of basically between 15 and 24. One of the things I hear is, well, where do I fit in? Where's how can I get my voice out? So I think it's really important for us, again, as we rebuild, to think about civic engagement for that age group. How are we creating space for it to be inviting for them to come and speak up and share their perspectives and help shape the community that is theirs and will be theirs for the
That's
next
right.
couple generations.
And feel worthwhile. It's no more dropping them off at the mall.
No, exactly, exactly. And with the youth homelessness group, there's a youth advisory board, and they were there every step of the way. We created agendas together. They facilitated the meetings. They were the final stamp of approval of how the money would get allocated.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And then they were hired on to these projects that we were now giving funding for. And actually now one of them stays in touch with me. Like, he's a manager,
Oh.
at one of the organizations. Like, those are the opportunities that we need to create for the youth in our community. And housing is a big piece of it. I know we wanted to talk a little bit about that. And I know that your last guest, Sonia, spoke about it. Young folks don't have a place to go because it's unaffordable. Our seniors don't have a place to go because it's unaffordable. So lots of layers of solutions, and one of the big ones is housing.
And do you see that changing much in our community? Do you see shifting?
I'm hopeful.
Okay.
We have the housing element in our general plan, and we have the housing blueprint. And, I think as a community, we need to shift our narrative and our it starts with that. It starts with shifting our everyday conversation and our narratives that change is progress. I know that change can be scary, and we can go into scarcity, and we can go into our fears, but change is progress, and change is needed. We need to build, and we need to build housing in a way that will reflect the community that we want, a diverse community that includes young people, that includes seniors, that includes people of color, Black, Indigenous, people of color, Latinx, that includes a range of incomes. I don't know, how many people do you know that have had to leave? I've got a lot of friends who are social workers, teachers, right? So when we're talking about diversity, it's all of that. And it could be, change can be scary, but it doesn't have to be. If we see it as, if we really close our eyes and envision the community we want, it's going to require some change, right?
It seems like the world is the same size puzzle, maybe just there's more pieces you got to put together.
There's more pieces and there's more people. I mean,
exactly.
We have a numbers issue. That's the reality. We have a numbers issue, and we're not alone. Many Central Coast communities are facing the same struggles, but we can do better.
Oh, I think so.
We can do better.
So. I think the sustainability piece was not really, it was just coming into fruition as an idea in the 70s.
Right.
So, here we are 30 years later, 40 years later.
Yeah, and, some years later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Well, thank you so much. Is there anything else you'd like to finish up with or tell us a little bit more about?
Sure. I think one of the things that's really important for anybody who is engaged in the community or stepping into a leadership role is one, what does success look like? I ask myself that. And for me, the success of our community looks like a united community that is activated and engaged and that is uplifted by the actions of our community leaders. And everyday people are community leaders, right? I also want to really stress that.
If you just show up.
If you just show up.
We did the first Black Lives Matter painting in front of our courthouse.
That's right.
So.
That's right, yeah. And I think, so that invitation, the invitation that success is everybody united, activated, uplifted, and showing up in whatever way makes sense for them and their families, right? And then the other, I think, for me, it's how I enter the space and how I want to do my work. I want to listen. I want to, and I've done this in my work in the past. I want to hold multiple perspectives without compromising my values of equity and dignity and compassion and strong communities. I want to hold those perspectives. And then from there, I want to move forward with solutions. We don't have time we got to get moving. We've got layers and layers of issues in our community that are being heightened by the last several months of COVID and the fires and our reach for social and racial justice. So I want to create solutions, and I want to do it now. I want to be in action.
Just want to change things up a little bit. So, Shebreh, I understand you've got some campaign media you've been working on.
Yes, I do, and I would love to share it with you all.
Oh, that sounds wonderful.
Yes, thank you, Michelle. I do have some campaign materials. I work with my husband and a good friend, and we put some materials together so that I can get my voice and my perspective around the policies that we need in our community out to our community. It's not safe for me to go door to door, and I don't want to put myself or our community at risk. So we're doing all that we can to get my message out through social media, through my website, which you can all go to at shebreh.org, which is SHEBREH.org. You can find my videos there, and you can find a little bit more about my background, and what I hope to accomplish as your city council member. Thank you all for being here. We've selected one of the best video clips we put together, and I'm inviting you all to listen in. I hope you enjoy.
How does that sort of inform how you think about leadership and how you think about what work needs to be done here in Santa Cruz?
Well, I'll start by saying that no one person can do it alone. It takes more than an individual to get to a place of health and well-being. And that is what I know I can bring. That is what I have done in my work, is to build community. In my previous work, I worked at United Way. I had the privilege of working at United Way and being the director of community organizing there. And we worked on issues like childhood obesity, prevention of substance use by youth, coordination of services for low-income children and family. And no one individual, no one organization, no one city or county can do it alone. We really need to build partnerships. And so what I learned through my life experience, through my work experience, and now as an independent consultant doing this work, is first, listen. Second, build trust. And then from those pillars, build deep partnerships. And when I can build deep partnerships, then I can do a lot. And that's been proven now in my work. I mean, I have brought in over $30 million because of partnership. Yes, I'm an eloquent writer. Yes, I can articulate the needs of our community to federal and state funders and foundations. But it's because I've built partnerships, and it's because I can design with our partners to articulate those needs. My name is Shebreh Kalantari-Johnson, and I'm running for Santa Cruz City Council.
Well, thank you so much for being here today, Shebreh. It was just a pleasure. And again, thank you for being here on Community Cafe. I'm Michelle Nicely. We'll see you next time. Bye.
And it was a pivotal moment in my family's life. My father knew that he could not raise his daughters in a country where they would not have equitable opportunity to thrive and grow and reach their full potential. So that was the beginning of a long trek of us making it over here. That trek took a year. We traveled through Turkey. We traveled through Germany. We were separated from my father for a year. And the interview would take hours and hours if I told you all the details, but it included my mom as a 20-something-year-old alone with her two daughters, not knowing anybody, not speaking the different languages. And we made it here, finally. And we used all of my mom and dad's resources to make it here. And when we came here, we had to start from zero. I was wrapping newspapers with my dad at early mornings. I was going to office buildings to help them clean office buildings. And he had started from zero back home and made it to be a successful small business owner.